everybody and their brother think they have the right to tell you what to do. If I give advice to somebody like you, it's like, fuck.
When you made a mistake in the past.
Welcome back to the Spinoso Podcast. I'm Alex Spinoso, entrepreneur, doctor, comic book geek, and car guy. I own multiple different businesses, and I have scaled one of them to 8 figures in 16 months. I want to be your Mr. Miyagi, your Yoda, your Professor X. I want you to go after what you want and actually get it. As always, I'm joined by the iconic beauty brains CEO of excellence herself, Miss Amanda May. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And welcome to your first episode not being pregnant.
Thank
ever.
you. Ever.
So I have this question, and it's been a question that I've been thinking about for a long time. Your son is 21, right?
20.
20. He's 20. And now you've got a newborn baby girl. She's how old now?
7 weeks.
7 weeks. Okay. Are you going to be one of those mothers that count weeks forever? Now I'm
No.
going off on a tangent. Like I'm 70,
No.
she's 78 weeks.
But I
old.
feel like it's really interesting at the beginning because it's like if she's a month and a half, I wouldn't necessarily tell people she's a month or 2 months. Like,
Right.
What do you tell them?
Yeah,
So
a month and a half.
Sean
That's what
and
you
I
say.
have actually had this conversation.
What does Sean think?
He thinks the same way you do. Like,
Yeah.
It's like, why?
Yeah,
Wait, what?
she's
Is
almost 2. Like
Yeah, she's
almost
almost 2
1.
months.
Like almost 2 months. There you go. You don't
Okay.
have to say it, like
That way other
it's funny.
people
My wife
don't
and I
have to do the math.
My wife and I say that's the thing is like the
Yeah.
math just sucks. I
Like,
go
I don't know
in
what that means.
6-month blocks. So essentially your
Yeah.
child is 6 months old to me. Yeah. Between 1 and 6 months, you just round up. That's
well,
it.
when she hits 6 months, hopefully she'll be sleeping longer periods throughout the
Right.
night. So
Exactly.
I'm okay with that thought process.
Sleep training.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, as soon as they turn like 5 months old, get her a sleep trainer. Oh, that was the best money we ever spent in our entire lives. We got a
Okay.
sleep trainer, taught the triplets how to sleep, when to sleep, just super regimented at night. And now they go to bed between 7:30 and 8:30 every single night, and they wake up between 7:30 and 8:30 every single morning.
Oh, that's fantastic.
They can sleep throughout the whole night.
Okay. I
Yeah.
look forward to that.
Yeah.
I'll definitely take you up
It's
on
so-
any information you have as it gets
it's-
closer.
It's so worth it. Yeah, you can't do it early because obviously they need to feed throughout the night, and you don't want to see your girl starving all night long.
Yeah.
But back to my question. Okay,
Okay.
you raised a boy 20 years ago, and now you're raising a little girl. What is like the biggest difference that you have, had to think of in your mind? Like, okay, I raised him this way in this type of world, and now I got to raise this one. What's because I know you're really analytical and think about that a lot. So I was
Yeah.
just interested in what's the big difference that you think?
Wow. So one of the biggest differences, I could go on about this question forever. We could do a whole podcast just on this question.
That actually might be really good.
One of the biggest differences is we're in a world now that's social media driven. And
Mhm.
20 years ago, it wasn't. Like, there just wasn't social media. So it was like, I would send photos to my family. But now I'm thinking about, well, where do I want to put her? Do I want to post pictures of her online?
Right.
How much do I want to expose her to like the outside world through online? And, what comes with that? So there's a little bit of like, who do I want to see her? When do I want them to see her? That kind of thing, like a protection
Yeah.
there. And I didn't really have to think about that with Isaac. As far as the outside world, that's kind of the, not putting her in school, whether we vaccinate, not vaccinate. I mean,
Mhm.
we didn't. That's just our belief system. But, so it's like, so then how do I make sure that I'm protecting her in other ways? So yeah, those are things I didn't think about 20 years ago. And some of it is just because I was unaware. There was a lot of this information just in different places. And now that I'm exposed to it through social media, not that I was saying social media is a bad thing, because I've learned a lot through platforms like Instagram and the web. And yeah, so I think now I have more data to make, I think, better and more informed decisions as a parent, and things that are more aligned with who I am today at almost 40 versus when I was 19, 20, and just, not being a child myself at that point. But yeah, so I think that that's the biggest difference. but she's taught me a lot. Like I was messaging with Vaughn a few days ago, Vaughn, woo, um, and and she's taught me more about softening. And I
Mm,
cry all the time now.
okay.
Like with my son, boys, it's different.
Hmm.
And
Oh, I know.
he taught me like more resilience and push and drive and like the fun aspect of life. And with her, it's like soft and warm. And I want her to always, feel a certain way and know that I'm there for her. And, I look at her sometimes when I'm feeding her and I'm just like crying. And I'm like, where are all these emotions coming from? I never had these before, but it's been a really interesting process. And it's only been just about 2 months now.
Yeah.
So I'm sure even more of this stuff is to come.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely incredible. And you're absolutely right. It's way different with boys and girls. With boys, you'll die for them, but with girls, you will kill for them and bury some bodies and everything. And you're absolutely right. That whole, crying when you're looking at your kids, especially your little girl. I mean, they're so sweet and they're so gentle and they're calm and they're beautiful. And I heard they're nightmares as teenagers, but I still have a while to go for that. The boys are fucking nightmares now. They're
Oh,
just
so it's
fighting and
switches.
smashing each other in the face with cars and crap like that. And they don't really bother Bella. Bella, you get close enough to Bella, she will bite you. So, the boys stay away from her because she's just a vicious Wolverine.
That's a
But
great good tactic.
yeah,
I'll
other than
just
that, she's
teach
super sweet.
Elia that.
Yeah, we're
Like,
small
anyone get
people.
too close, just bite,
Oh, we're
babe.
small people. Like small people just bite. We don't have anything else like to really do but bite. Yeah, biting is our go-to for that. But no, that would be a really good podcast. I think we should definitely talk about that and parenting. I don't think there's a lot of that out there
Yeah.
that isn't like foo-foo bullshit.
Yeah, and I think one of the other realizations I've had through this period is how women don't really talk about what you actually go through that first 6 weeks. I remember telling you like, "Oh, give me 2 weeks, I'll be back at it."
Yeah.
I was in
I was like,
straight up
sure.
survival mode for 6 straight weeks. I mean, I've just been out of survival mode for about a week,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You
So
finally took a shower.
for real, I mean, days without a shower,
Yeah.
without eating, there's just a lot that goes on, the emotional roller coaster that's involved,
The hormones are insane.
no sleep,
Hmm.
hormones. I mean, there's so much that's happening for a woman that like I don't know if I went through this or if I just forgot,
Mm.
but it's definitely something that when a woman is like, I see you, like I know what you're going through because women like your wife have reached out, like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, but just because they
Right.
asked, I'm crying,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's a bit overwhelming and it's lack of sleep. So there's
Hmm.
just a lot that goes into it. And I don't think there's enough conversation around that and feeling like that's okay to feel this way.
Yeah.
It's okay that I'm tired. It's okay that I'm emotional and not feeling like it somehow takes away from the love I have for my baby or how precious and amazing I think she actually is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely a topic
Yeah,
that
and postpartum depression and hormones is a real thing, and we made sure to actually do placental encapsulation afterwards.
yeah,
That really helped like level Steph's out and
we
level
did
her
the
hormones
same.
out, where she didn't have a huge issue or anything like that. Did you do that as
Yeah,
well?
yeah.
Oh, great!
Mhm.
It does help a lot. I mean, obviously, it doesn't take everything away from you. You're still gonna have emotional roller coasters, but it does kind of deaden that extreme roller coaster downward spiral that you have. At least protects you on that end. So
Yeah,
definitely recommend that. That's good. That's good that you did that. That's huge.
but great question.
Yeah,
Makes it
awesome.
might make me think more about this too,
Right?
that topic. Yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
So today we're going to talk about overcoming the peanut gallery, which obviously you as a parent, you're going to start to get, period. And it was funny because I was the same way in that I knew that everybody in their parent, even my parents or, you know, anybody who's got a kid or a child, they're going to have advice for you. And my wife sends me stuff on Instagram from different parents and people like that. And the peanut gallery is always out there. They always have their 2 cents. So they always want to share their opinions and their complaints all the fucking time. Like no matter what, they're gonna share their opinion. They're gonna share their complaints. They're gonna share like what you should do, what you shouldn't do with your kid. And I think I messaged you and I said, you know what? I never thought I'd be the parent, but I'm gonna tell you this. Like I don't want to be the parent you're like, no, you're like one of the only two fucking people that I would listen to anyways.
Yeah.
But you,
Please
because
tell
you've
me
gone
what
through
you
it.
know.
Yeah, please tell me what you know. And I'm like, fuck, like really, I'm giving this girl fucking advice, and I promise to not be that person, giving advice about your kid.
It was solid
Um,
advice though.
it
I
was good.
appreciate it. And then shortly after you had told me that, because I didn't know like
Hmm.
that, I had her in one of those like poofy outfit
Yeah,
jacket things. And I didn't know that, that's just not safe. And obviously I want to do what's best for her.
yeah,
I just didn't know. And so shortly after you had texted me that, um, I had seen another post about it where they were showing what can happen.
yeah,
And so I'm like, I'm so grateful that you shared that. So
yeah,
maybe other advice, but that was
yeah.
good advice.
So
So
all
thank
those
you.
all those people out there in listening land, and if you don't know what we're talking about, when Amanda was taking her little girl home for the first time, all of the car seats have little puffy straps or little like puffy protectors on the straps. And immediately we decided to take those off because it was under the tutelage of our doula and our midwife, because those puffy straps actually pull the seatbelt away from your baby's body and away from your kid's body as they grow older. And if you also put your kid in like a puffy jacket, you can't really cinch down the straps against their body. So what happens is that if you get in an accident, the G force will actually crush those puffiness, and there it creates a gap or an air gap between the actual strap and the baby's body. So the body ends up thrashing way more and going through twice as much G force because there's no stop right away from the strap. They actually move and then they hit the strap and then they stop. So it actually makes the G force way higher, and can cause damage to your child. And really up to until our kids are, over 50 pounds, they're going to be backwards facing as well, because it's the same way. They say they turn a baby forward facing when they're 30 pounds. But we saw studies that even at 30 pounds, they don't have enough muscle strength. They don't have
Mhm.
enough strength to keep their heads upright. So if you get in an accident, you as an adult you're gonna have massive whiplash. As a kid, they're gonna have even more because their muscles aren't going to be able to tense up and hold the bones as strong as an adult would. So they can go through some serious, serious damage. So our kids will even be backward facing, not forward facing, until they're over 50 pounds,
That's
which is
great.
pretty crazy.
That's great insight.
Yeah.
Great information.
Going back to the peanut gallery, how do you move forward with confidence and peace when everybody and their brother think they have the right to tell you what to do, complain about your decisions, etc.? And, you know, there are multiple points about this, but point number one is understand that the worst person that you can actually disappoint is yourself. So you have to, first and foremost, make a decision and take actions that are true to you and your core values and your vision for what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that's really difficult because at the same time, I want to do that and I like to do that. So if I give advice to somebody like you, it's like, fuck, I hope, she sees that I just want her to be safe. And I think that's what most people do.
Mhm.
Uh, they want you, family, most people that are close to you, not the outside peanut gallery, but I think most people really want to be close to you and uh, or they want to protect you. Like you said, they want to protect you. So they want to have some sort of input on your life. But at the same time, you got to make sure that doesn't clash with your core values in any way.
Yeah, I think the two big things there is one, a person would have to know what their core values are and what they stand for. Because then if they're getting information from the peanut gallery, they don't really know where to move because they haven't defined for themselves what's the right way to take action on something. So knowing first and foremost, knowing yourself so that you're not disappointing yourself in the process is the first step because it's easy to be swayed one way or another if you haven't made a decision about what's best for you. So that I think is a big key is people really slowing down to say, what are my core values? How many people have personal core values? We have them in the business, but do people slow down to say, like, who am I and what do I stand for?
Mhm.
And then does what somebody's telling me align with whether yes, they want good for me, but does it align with something that is already a belief or a system that I want to operate within? And so that helps you decide like when you told me, "Hey, try this or don't do this," or if you're giving me advice, I can automatically like align that with my beliefs and go like, "Okay, yeah, that's good advice. That's something I want to take." And there are people that give me advice that I'm like, Yeah, not happening.
Right?
But I know right away, like, and it's those boundaries of, you know, how far do you let somebody go? Are they gonna bully or push you around because you didn't listen to them? Because there are family members that can do that to people. Or are they willing to give their advice and then kinda let you make the decision? Because that's different from advice and then trying to control a situation, which, is a second layer to what can happen when people like to give their advice.
Yeah.
Then they wanna control how you do it and if you do it.
Well,
And that comes across in family, I think, a lot.
how do you get to that point? So you've been through this a while, and I've been through this a while. So we already have our beliefs, our core values, our thoughts in mind, and we try and be as introspective as possible and create, our world around us to be able to take in that information. But how did that? I'm trying to think back to myself. How did that start for you? Maybe you could think of it faster than I can. How did that start for you to start to create those boundaries or those beliefs?
Yeah, the first thing that I did was I read a book called Boundaries.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, by
That works.
that was great. It was by, Cloud and Townsend. It's actually like there's a workbook format too. So that was the
Oh,
first I was
nice.
aware of having boundaries, healthy boundaries, what it looks like, how to communicate them, and that opened up the door for me then to start to think about, all right, paired with these boundaries, who am I and why do I want the things that I want? Like, why do I want these boundaries? And that kind of married up with the book from Simon Sinek, Start with Why.
Mm.
And understanding my why helped me identify and solidify my core values a little bit more. Like, what do I really stand for? Why am I taking these actions and why do I operate the way that I operate, and how I perceive the world? What are those things? And then narrowing it down. And I started with like a list of, I think, 20 things that I thought were really important to me, like integrity, creativity. Um, the integrity part is a huge, like, that's the number one core value because it's like so much is foundational when it or that's foundational to so much else being built on top of it. So it's really identifying like the core of who you are. And I think Simon Sinek's book is a great way to start. That's how I learned.
I think I was the same. I don't think I really started to protect my time or audit advice as much until I read a book called "What Would the Rockefellers Do?" I think it's over there. Yeah, "What Would the Rockefellers Do?" And they talked about the core values and having core values for your family and how they had core values for their family, and that's what drives their investments as they grow, the
Mhm.
family as in general. And I never grew up in a family that had like set core values. I mean, but the core values are pretty much, don't fucking lie, don't be an asshole, and they all have cuss words in them because I grew up in an Italian Puerto Rican family. Like, don't get embarrassed, shit like that. I think was our core values, but I think I think that is really important to be introspective and to start reading books and communicating your boundaries, if you will, but also being able to audit that and figuring out, okay, this person is where I want to be. They have things I want. Maybe I should listen to them and at least see what they're trying to say to me. And if that aligns with my core values, then great. We can definitely, I'll take that advice and I'll run with it versus, not running with it. And it's been huge because doing that now and expressing our core values as a business and as a company and hiring and firing and um, reprimanding and congratulating and bonusing based off core values has been a huge change in our business. We didn't really have set core values. We had core values from the beginning, but we didn't really drive them in until maybe I would say like two and a half, 3 years ago. And then when we got the company together and actually had the executives like redo our core values over a year ago now, that's when it really started to take off and people started to really live the core values and understand the core values because they had buy-in from that. So that's allowed us to attract, talent that lives in that core values, putting my personal brand out there and my core values and what I believe in that has attracted uh, more staff and more people who want to come and work with us and work with Genesis and work with me personally outside of Genesis. So I think that's been a huge opportunity as well. We're doing that.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to the point of like, how do you deal with that in the business? Like with getting complaints,
Yeah.
because you have a lot of peanut gallery around you. And how do you manage the complaints or people that want to complain about things with calling them the peanut gallery?
Mhm.
How do you manage that? Like,
That's super difficult. It is
yeah.
super difficult because sometimes you just want to slap people and say, "Shut the fuck up." But a couple different lessons that I learned. One of them actually from Lee Cockrell that I watched, and he was speaking on stage at an event. I can't remember what event it was, but Lee was the head of Disney in the past, head of Marriott in the past for years and years. And what he said was, "Tell people what you do for them." So he used to go around, and if he got some sort, he was working in a kitchen somewhere and they needed a new oven and they got a new oven, he would go in there and say, "Hey, how's everything doing? I got that oven for you. How do you like that oven?" He would remind people constantly what he was doing for them so they understood, because they just think a lot of times in your team just thinks things happen without you having to go through it, without you having to do things. They just happen magically. Shit gets fixed, and we all know as business owners or as leaders, you're the one that's constantly running around fixing those things. So, not only did he say that, but the other thing he said was, if anybody came up with any type of improvement plan or thing, even if it was the dumbest idea on earth, he would give them an answer, yes or no. But at the same time, if it was a no, he would tell them why. And so, always explaining or justifying your answer helped the staff see why that didn't make sense. So, for example, actually, I was talking with Vaughn earlier this morning, and we were talking about how sometimes employees that are very new to our world, been in it 3 months, 6 months, they might have a suggestion, and it's a suggestion of a problem that we solved 3 or 4 years ago. And we know that their suggestion would create that problem that we solved literally 3 or 4 years ago. So sometimes it's because we've been through it, it's kind of like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Trust me, because we've been through it. You have to reword it into something that they understand. Look, we have tried that before. We've tried it multiple times before. We tried it this way, that way, and it never worked. And this is why it didn't work. So that they understand, like, okay, they're not being ignored. They're being heard, which every employee wants to be heard, but at the same time, their idea doesn't fit with the direction that we're going in or what we're trying to do, because we already solved that problem. And making that decision or trying it out, because they might say, well, why trying out? Trying it out will slow down our momentum of the direction that we're trying to go in. So you have to understand that we're not just going to try out every idea. We'll try out some ideas if they make sense, but every idea doesn't make sense to try out. So you have to understand that that doesn't mean you stop bringing ideas, but that does mean that you have to understand and trust the leaders, that they know where they're going. Now, there are some shitty ass leaders, and maybe you could find a different place to work, but with the way that we've scaled and the way that we've grown and the fact that all of our employees make way more money than they can anywhere else, I think we have a track record of being able to say things like that.
Yeah, so it's moving authentically with what you know works best for the business and the other team members and all the parties involved. And so, when was a time that you've experienced that authenticity attracting you more professional success or personal success, attracting you the clients that you want or the business relationships that you want? Like where have you seen that authenticity really work for you?
Well, we always, in business and in Genesis, the biggest thing actually growing up, even with my dad, the biggest rule in our house was like, just don't fucking lie. And so that is the only time I get super irate with any human being, is that if they lie. And it's not only just if they lie straight to my face, it's if they forget what they said or wrote or did and then try and say they didn't say that. Like, I'll call them out 100% of the time. Like, that's what makes me super irate. So it's the same with in business, where I wanted to make sure that everything was transparent. We were really clear on our goals and our values. And I was really clear on my goals and values, and that I wasn't going to try and uh, change the rules or skirt rules or do any illegal shit to make money. And so we've always done that in our business, and I've always done that as a person and as a human being. And more recently, within the past year or so, actually, a good friend of mine. who's the CEO of another company called Accesso Biologics, Michael Aquino, and I started talking about what we each do. And we're each in different fields. And I have my fellowship in stem cells and like amniotic products and stuff like that. And I used to do that in the Genesis brand, and we got away from it. He does that in the wound care world, in the wound care space, which is all FDA approved products and a very legal way to do it. Ours, the way I did it in the past, was more of a gray area that the FDA didn't like until where they allowed until it was like 2022 when I think they really like chopped it off. But we had long not done it way before that, and we got away from that world. But it was always an interest to me. And we started talking, and I really liked the way he did business because in that world, especially, you can really blow it out. And what I mean by blow it out is like you could do a lot of illegal shit. You can do a lot of kickbacks and illegal backdoor deals and stuff. And you can grow a really big $100 million business like that. Like literally within months, you can grow it. And that's what a lot of people in that field do. They do that, they sell it, they get out. Yeah, they take their hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's a really weird program, a really just weird world. And he did it the opposite way. He'd been in that field for more than a decade, and he took it upon himself to build this business himself and do it right, do it ethically. Source ethically, not create the backdoor deals, not do any kickbacks, not do any of that stuff. And we started talking about it, and he's like, "Man, this sucks. Like everybody's passing us up. Everybody's getting better." And it was a huge lesson in patience for him where it's like, just wait, dude. Just wait. We're doing it right. You're doing it right. And we ended up, in the business world being attracted to each other because we do things right. It was the delayed gratification of building something right over a long period of time. And so he ended up only making 280K this year when he's used to making $1 million, $1 million, $1 million the years before that. But he put everything back into his business. He's going to make 280K, in 2023. But now in 2024, we set ourselves up to be in the most unique position because everybody now wants to work for us and work with us in that company. And I ended up buying into that company. I own 10% of that company, and I consult with them as well, and it's been great because it's partnerships that are aligned. And now this year he's set to make probably take home $30 million
Mm.
take home pay. So he had all that delayed gratification. He had the core values in place. He had this is the do the right thing. This is the ethical thing to do. And it took him way longer than everybody else. And way longer is relative, 2 years versus 20, 30 years. But at the same time, we're in a different world and everything can be sped up. That being said, because of that, he's going to make 10 times what anybody else has made this year doing it the opposite way because of the fact that he just built something. And I was lucky enough to be along for the ride because we saw the same in each other in terms of core values. We were on the same wavelength. We had the same beliefs. So it attracted him as a person and now as a business partner.
Is
Oh, yeah.
there a time when you feel like you received criticism that was really tough at the beginning to handle, like initially felt difficult, but then ended up leading to a greater level of personal growth and development?
Yeah, actually, most recently, I told this story before, but we ended up hiring the head of HR who used to work for Amazon for a decade. And he came over to Genesis, and during his first week and his first real assignment, he had brought up to me that the staff didn't really take what I said, or some of the staff didn't really take what I said in the best light, meaning that I'm very straightforward. I'm very no bullshit, to the point, and everything. And people that have been around me for a while, they understand that. So they give me grace when it comes to that. But there's a lot of people in our business because we've grown so fast and so quick that have only been around a few months or less than a year. So they haven't seen the transition that, hey, I may come down on you and I may, you know, yell at you, but at the same time, it's because I want you to be the best that you possibly can be. But they haven't been with us long enough to actually realize that and see it come to a fruition as multiple people in our businesses have. So when he brought that up to me, I was like super hurt, and it freaking killed me because I was like, I do all this for these people and I kill myself and I don't see my kids and I'm always working on this business and everything like that. And, at the end, that's what they want to complain about. They make more money than anywhere they could. And they want to complain about the way I speak to them. And he said, I used to be like you. I used to think the same thing. And there's two schools of thought. One, you can create that culture of, hey, we're going to storm the mountain. We're going to run up there. We're going to plant our flag. No fucking prisoners. Anybody who isn't with us, you're against us. You're going to get chopped. You're going to get cut. Or you can wake up every day and try and gain somebody's commitment. And so there's a difference between, you know, gaining, and the way he said it was very specific. And I'm trying to think about it. And the way he worded it was that you can either gain compliance or gain commitment. And he said, compliance is great. It will take your business a decent amount away. But if you gain commitment, you have them for life and they are bought into what you are trying to do and what you're trying to say. And it's just a difference in the way that you speak to people and that you want them to get, you want to gain their commitment really. And up to this point, I've gained compliance and it's been really, really well. We've built a huge business based off of that. But the next level of being a leader is gaining commitment, not just compliance. So that's one thing that really was like difficult to hear. And it's taken me weeks and weeks and weeks to really internalize it and accept it and say, okay, that's probably the best way to do it and grow a business instead of the way we're at now, which is a good way. And I've had friends that have grown multi-million and multi-billion dollar uh businesses doing the gaining compliance type. So you can build a business either way. I just had to look at myself and say, okay, do I want to listen to this guy who's been in the field for a long period of time, not the medical field, but the HR and teaching people? Or do I want to just continue to do it the way I can? And both are, in my eyes, correct. They both can work, but really, what do I want to be as a leader? Like, I don't want to be hated as a leader, which would suck. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that I'm going to, soften all my edges and become the SpongeBob without holes type thing and without edges, which is like, hi, I'm normal. But at the same time, that allows me to think and reflect and say, okay, what am I saying or how am I saying it or putting it on me that in my way of communicating so that my staff gets it and understands it and I'm getting their commitment, which will just result in my income growing because their income is going to grow because they're going to do more and they're going to be more. And as a result of that, the business will do more and be more and have more income.
So it sounds like you took his advice or feedback or constructive criticism to heart. When do you when do you know how to take it to heart versus disregard feedback that you get,
When
criticisms?
you end up in your garage crying for 3 hours because you're like, your world is falling down around you because he told you something that fucking undercut everything that you believed. I mean, when you fucking hit rock bottom, that's the only time I think most people will make changes, really, and that's the difficult part is, making those changes when you feel like you hit rock bottom. But yeah, it really made me feel horrible knowing that or learning that. And I think that's part of self-reflection is being able to take that and say, "You know what? Okay, this fucking hurt like a motherfucker. It was ridiculous. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible." And I went into, like any entrepreneur, a small depression for a while and cut my hair or my beard, and that's why it's fucking long now. Um, but at the same time, it was, that's when you decide, like, okay, there's two schools of thought. I had to, internalize it. Which way do I want to go? Which way makes sense for where we are in the business? Which way
Mm.
is something you can do for a long period of time? And going back to that's why I chose med school over continuing to play professional soccer when I was getting surgeries after surgery after surgery. It's like, I can't play this forever. I need something that I can do forever. And that's why I went into med school. So it's the same thing here. It's okay, can I act like this forever and burn the boats and take no prisoners and cut out employees, and publicly execute them and stuff like that? Or does it make more sense for me to gain commitment as much as possible and be able to build something that is can grow and at the same time isn't going to kill me? Really. It's a self-preservation technique, really. I mean, you may think that it's for others and stuff like that, but really it's a self-preservation technique. Either I do it one way and I die earlier, because guaranteed I will put myself in the hospital multiple times the other way, or I try this other way and, maybe I survive a decade longer because I don't have the same amount of stress or heart attacks and shit like that. That's self-inflicted. And along those lines, I think one of the most difficult things you have to understand as a leader and when you're making decisions is that you have to try and live with a clear conscience. And the notes say here so that you don't feel guilty about any decision you make or actions you take, which I think is bullshit because you're still going to feel guilty no matter what with some of your actions because some of your actions and some of the things that you decide to do are going to be wrong. So it's okay to be wrong, and you're probably every once in a while gonna feel some guilt as you grow because you're like, "Man, I could have made a better decision in that, and I feel guilty that I had that decision." But then using that in your brain and saying, "Okay, my conscience is clear though because I did not intend for that to go this way, or I did not intend for how they interpreted it to go. But they still interpreted it that way, and I have to change how I act or how I present things or how I do things so that I don't have those issues or those hiccups on the backside."
Yeah, and I think that means, treating everyone with respect and dignity, both personally and professionally. And that's where your clear conscience comes in because it's like if you know you're treating everybody that way, then you can move forward. Even if it's a decision you're like, "Ah, I should have done that different." There's still a level of like dignity and integrity that goes with it. So as long as your conscience is clear and then you know that your heart or your motivation in it was still to treat people with dignity and respect, that still feels like integrity, even if you're going to do it different next time.
Exactly.
How do
Yeah.
you maintain like respect, self-respect, by consistently doing the right thing, even in challenging
Well,
situations?
I think you answered it right there. You maintain self-respect by consistently doing the right thing, or at least what you think is the right thing, and realizing that you can be wrong and then changing the way you deal with it the next time. So if you keep fucking up over and over and over, I mean, you're not going to have any integrity with your team. You're not going to have any self respect or dignity because you're consistently making the same mistakes or the same issues coming up over and over and over. You know, there's a great SNL speech writer where it's, uh, what's his name? Andy Dick writing a speech for George Bush. And he has like that, he's the speech writer. And George Bush, there's an old clip of him where he's trying to say the "fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on," or "fool me once, shame on you," and then he stumbles through it like that, and he goes, "Fool me can't get fooled again," and you see Andy like, "Yes, fool me can't get fooled again. I wrote that." And it's kind of the same thing where it's like if you keep getting fooled or you keep acting in the same way over and over and over, and it's incongruent with what you're telling your staff or you're trying to have through your core values or even what you spout on fucking social media. I mean, it's easy to come on the mic and say, "Oh yeah, we do this, this, and this, and this," but guess who is going to find out whether or not you're doing that? Your staff that's probably listening to the podcast or seeing your reels or posts or shit like that and thinking, "Man, this guy's full of shit." And I've seen more
Mm.
entrepreneurs that have masterminds that just get crushed because they're out here spouting how awesome they are on their podcast or in front of social media and stuff like that. And everybody knows the true fucking story of where they came from or who they are or what they're doing or if they're over leveraged or not. So they start to lose credibility. You lose credibility there. You lose integrity. And it's the same with your staff, where if you're spewing that shit out there, you better be able to back it up with your staff and prove that, hey, yeah, this is right, this is right, this is right. And then they'll start to believe you in that case.
Yeah, because they're checking. They're
Oh, yeah,
listening and then they're checking in, like, "Is that really what happens? Is that how it goes down?" Yeah, so they're watching to see if it lines up.
absolutely they are. Every single step that you take, I mean, everybody's watching you. Just as much as your kids watch you at home and learn from you and habits are caught, not taught, it's the same at work. It's the same when you're running your business.
You have to hold yourself accountable even when you make mistakes. So, what does that look like for you? Like, can you share an example of a time when you made a mistake in the past and you took personal responsibility for it, and how you feel like that has either hindered or helped your professional growth?
Yeah, it's really difficult, quite honestly, because you never want to fucking be wrong. And as a boss, you feel like sometimes that you can't be wrong a lot of times, like because you have these people who are counting on you and looking up to you, and you have to be the go-to guy or the go-to girl at the top where you should have all the answers. And that's what a lot of entrepreneurs, and I think young entrepreneurs who are just starting out, feel like they need to be, where they don't have, where they have all the answers and they
Mm,
can't ask for help, or they can't talk to their staff and say, I don't know what we're doing here, guys. And I think at the beginning, I felt like I had to have the answer to everything, and I had to have a response to everything. And in the end, it caused issues because the answer or the response might be wrong, or might be not what the people on the ground or the people right in front of the patient are seeing. So it became this incongruent where, well, you're not listening to me because I'm actually seeing the patient and taking care of them, or this is how it actually works in the clinic. And as I started to get more and more removed from that, you have to trust the people who are there running your business every single day and listen to what they say.
mm,
And if the same problem pops up in different areas for us now, we're all over the country. So if it's popping up the same problem in different areas, it's like ancient hieroglyphics where they all drawing the same shit on different continents. It's like there's something true or underlying there that needs to be either fixed or delved into further. So that's how we really start to see problems now. And at the same time, I have to start pulling back a bit more. And I have had to pull back a little bit more where you have to start listening to all their issues or their problems or their concerns, taking them with a grain of salt, and then saying, okay, how many people have this problem? If it's one person or one clinic that has this problem, then we know it's a problem with just that person or that clinic. Because now we're so big, there's 100 plus employees. If one employee has this problem, it's definitely just an employee problem. We got to figure out how we can make that employee better or that location better. It can't be a systemic issue. Now, if it's four or five, six places having that same issue, now it's more of a systemic issue that we have to fix, and we have to say, okay, I'm accountable for this and responsible for changing it so that they can function the way they need to or the way they want to, which is just going to improve, the company in general. And that's what is really important, is that you have to start to self-evaluate when you're getting into those positions where you feel like you have to know everything, or you're saying you know everything. And what changed for Brent and I is we started to really ask everybody, like, how can we what can we do to make your job easier? Is there any problems that you have that we need to solve? What are you seeing in your clinics that we need to solve, et cetera? And it really opened up the staff a lot more. Now, there needs to be a give and take with that, because a lot of times you just open it up and it becomes just a bitch session where every time they come is like a complaint after complaint after complaint. And so we now tell people, hey, if you're going to come up with an issue, at least come up with one to two solutions to that issue. So you're not just bringing up issues and then dumping it on us and saying, well, I hope you guys can fix it. That's not how it works. That's not how we develop our staff. We want to develop our staff so they are free thinkers, so that they can actually take steps to improve their situation that they're in or their problem that they have without us having to fix every single thing, because then you can't scale. If you come to Brent or Alex for every single thing in the business, or you're coming to the CEO for every single thing in your business, and you're never learning how to solve certain problems that are the mid level or even low level problems, then you're never going to grow as a leader. So,
Yeah, so would that be an example of a time when you'd say, like, you make decisions that are aligned with your core values, even if you're getting pressure from external like circumstances? Like, because that sounds like a core value, like you're sticking to your core values with accountability, at least with the company accountability, teamwork. It's like they have to come with solutions, the RFS mindset, those solution based mindset. And you're making the decision based off the core values of the company, but they're
Absolutely.
coming with solutions. And then you can take a look at those and say, like, okay, are these aligned? Like, would you say that's how that would operate?
Exactly. And as a business owner, you're always talking about the core values. So if they're coming to you with a problem and they don't have a solution to the problem, well, that's not being accountable, which is one of our core values. You need to be accountable for this problem, accountable for yourself in the situation. What can you do to improve the situation? Do you have solutions that you have in mind? And they don't have to always be correct solutions, but they have to be an attempt to improve the situation or improve the solution. A lot of times people will come to us and then we say we have a solution. It's almost like my wife, she has a problem or an issue, she brings it to me and we want to be fixers. We want to fix everything. When she just wants me to fucking shut up and listen, right? And vent. Sometimes staff wants that as well. Sometimes they just want to talk through it with you and instead of you being a fixer, they're going to talk through it. They're going to come up with their solutions and then they're going to talk themselves into the solution and say, "Okay, okay, I'm good." Instead of you trying to fix everything or myself trying to jump in and fix everything, it's like that core value of accountability and kind of turning it on themselves and saying, well, what would you do in this situation? What do you think you should do in this situation? And then saying, yeah, I would do that, or I would maybe try this along with that, or I wouldn't do that because I've tried that before and this is the result that happens. So letting them come up with their own decision making ability throws the accountability back on them, helps with the core values. And it's the same with teamwork. When they come and saying, hey, Sandra isn't pulling her own weight, or Sally is doing something wrong, or Patricia, is messing up. And I have people named Sandra and Patricia and shit like that. So I'm not calling you guys out. But that being said, if somebody says something, or Gianna, who's my sister, if somebody says something like they're not pulling their weight or they're not doing this right, like, okay, have you talked to them about that? Have you had this conversation with them about that? Well, no, I didn't want to bring it up. Well, why are you talking to me about it then? It's not my fucking problem. Like, teamwork is our core values. Be a fucking team member and go talk to that person about it and fix it with them. Like, I don't have to fucking do it. I'm not working in the clinic. You guys are together. So figure your shit out together. And so pushing it back on them again, it's part of the accountability, but also making sure that they understand, oh, this is teamwork. I need to be talking with my team, and conflict is I think an important part of any type of growth. You have to have conflict, and people have to learn to deal with conflict. And those businesses that don't learn how to deal with conflict and grow and do better are the businesses that just they don't stick around. They end up absolutely just going by the wayside and disappearing. When you're talking about your core values, when you're talking about those decisions that you have to make that are important, you have to prioritize and focus on the base of people that are supporting you and are supportive of you and where you want to go and who you want to be. Along with that, when you start to hear the peanut gallery that we've talked about in another episode, and you have all these ideas and thoughts being thrown at you, that's how you can really evaluate who is speaking to you. Is this person part of my supportive base? Have they been there before? Are they living our business core values if they're in your business, or if they're in your home life or outside of that? Does this align with my core values and what my beliefs are? And does this person share my character, my values, my vision, my whatever needs to be aligned with you so that you can say, okay, yeah, I'll take advice from this person. Or, like you said early on, that person probably isn't the best person to listen to at this point.
How do you determine the qualities of the people that you're looking for, like, to have around you in your personal and professional life?
I think it's a mixture of what you have and what you want for your life. For example, I do not like liars, period. I do not like, and I am totally fine with somebody who wants to argue with me. I am great with arguments. Like, I'll try and win every single argument, but I grew up in a house arguing with everybody, like with our family and stuff like that. It was just a healthy thing. And Italians and Puerto Ricans have the memory of a shrew. I think you brought something up. You brought stuff up in the past, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I can't like what? I don't even remember that. And you remember it, obviously, and my wife remembers it, God, even more than that. But I don't remember fucking shit. I don't remember what I had for breakfast. Like I have, 10-second Tom memory. And that being said, when it comes to other qualities like that, I want to see that in other people. So it's really just a conversation. You sit and have conversations with people, and you can tell not only animalistically, because we are all mammals, you can tell where your hair stands up on the back of your neck when you're talking to somebody in the first 30 seconds. And you're like, this is not a person I want to be around or talk to at all. Like, people have auras, they have magnetic fields, they have, a feeling around them that you're just like, this is not a good person that I want to hang out with at all. And on the opposite end, there are those people that have a very warm feeling, welcoming feeling. They align with you. They have the same core values. They tell a story that you're thinking in your head, yeah, I would probably act that way or be that way, or that's what I would do. That's how you start to align with people. That's how you start to figure out who you want on your team and who you want in your corner. What is that person's history? What is that person's story? Have they gone through hard times, and what have they gone through to overcome those hard times? And that's how you can start to connect with people, is really just learning about others and listening to what others say, because people love to talk about themselves. I mean, I created a podcast so I could hear myself talk all the freaking time. It's great. But that being said, listening to what other people say about themselves, how they talk about themselves, situations they've been in. Are they talking about partying every weekend and fucking bitches, and they're married and they have a kid at home? That is incongruent with how I live and how I want to be, or who I want to be around. Are they talking about some business deal they made where they might have made $30 million, but they screwed over their last business partner? Because people will tell you all of that. I've heard it, I've seen it, and they will tell you the truth. They'll tell you the story, but at the same time, in that situation, I never want to do business with that person from now on. So I just avoid that person. I Cool, you made a lot of money, but you definitely screwed over your business partner and you're justifying it to me. Why would I ever want to be a business partner with you? Because you're going to justify screwing me over in the same situation.
You pay attention to things like the hair standing up on the back of your neck, like in those situations, are there other things that you are watching for to tell if somebody has your best interest at heart, or if they're coming from maybe a negative standpoint or their own hidden agenda in the criticisms that they give you or the feedback that they give you, whether it's good for you or whether or not it's really just like good for somebody else?
Pushing that question back on them, or pushing the specific question back on them, is what I always try and do. And the specific question I ask is, what is your end goal here that I should be looking at? And I say yours because it's their end goal, like you're saying. You try and find out what their feedback is. So, what's your end goal here that I should be looking at? So then you take ownership of it as well. And asking that question in that specific way allows them to dive deeper into what their ultimate goal is, what they're trying to get at. And they may subconsciously answer you, and you'll be able to tell whether or not it's for their own good or for your own good. If they're able to answer you in a way that's, well, I went through this, I tried this, what you're suggesting, I tried, and this is what the failed result was. So I went in this direction, and doing that instead led me to blank. They have an answer. They have an answer that shows that they went through it and they failed, and they want you to get better and avoid that failure. If you can't really fake an answer in that situation. It kind of pigeonholes them into giving you a lie or the truth. And if they give you a lie, you could pretty much pick up 95% of the time whether or not they're bullshitting.
Mm.
Well, I just think this might be the best thing for you. Okay, well, why? W- Explain how it would affect me, or why you think it would improve me. I could only bullshit through so many questions. But if they ask that, or if you ask that, and they say, well, it would benefit you this way, and this way. Okay. Have you gone through this before? Are there any downfalls to this? Oh yeah. I went through this before and I did this, this, and this. And it's okay for a mutual, like, where you guys both get rich or you guys both improve. I would recommend doing this because you're gonna get this, this, and this, but I'm also gonna get this, this, and this. And that's fine. A win-win is always fine. It's not a big deal, but that's how you can pull that out of them.
So if they're being transparent, like you're listening for their level of transparency in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's interesting the hidden agendas I feel like come with under the guise of like this is just good for you. Where when there's transparency and the win-win, when somebody's open about what they gain out of it, then that feels good. It's okay, like what you said, if somebody gains something from the relationship, it should be equal of value
Yeah.
both ways.
Yeah.
So it's like that's okay as long as it's voiced and you're
Absolutely.
not trying to figure out like what are you getting out of this, but they're just open and transparent from the beginning on what it is they get to.
Right. And even if it isn't equal, even if it's massively unequal, at least you can tell them and say, "Hey, look, I recommend you do this because honestly, it's going to make you this much money. However, I could supply X and it's going to make me this much money. So, I believe that us working together is mutually beneficial." There is no fucking business owner on earth who does not like a mutually beneficial strategic partnership. I mean, it's what I do is strategic partnerships if it's going to benefit all parties involved. They love that. We love that. I love that. I love as many people winning as possible. If you want to go far, go together. And ultra wealthy and wealthy people, they know that. They know they didn't get to the top all alone. They know that when you're at the top, sharing money with each other and going in with each other on different businesses only compounds the amount of money and the amount of, I guess, glory and history out there about yourself. The more you can do, the more you can help. The more you can help, the more people are going to talk about you. The more people are going to talk about you, the better we feel internally because we're dead inside and we want everybody to love us as much as possible. But that being said, it's important to have those things up front and be transparent about that. Because if you are transparent, people are going to appreciate that. They're gonna be like, that dude knows how to win. He knows how to bring others along to win. And he knows that there's plenty of food at the table for everyone to eat a lot. And it's not oh, I win, so you lose sort of thing. Or I win big and you win a little. As long as we both win, fuck it. I've brought people over for different programs and introduced them to X, Y, and Z, and they've made affiliate commissions on, let's say, our FDA approved wound care products, and they make 30% commissions on what they sell, and they make tens of millions of dollars, and I make nothing because I just made that introduction. Well, I still win because I still have made a friend or somebody who I know I could count on if I need something because I made them tens of millions of dollars. I mean, they're going to inevitably want to owe me a favor,
Mhm.
really. Because when you get high enough up and you have somebody like that who really helps you out, you feel indebted to them for life. You really do. And it's some of the people that really helped me build Genesis at the beginning, they pay me for everything because they want to, but they still know, like, if you wanted anything, you would get it for free from Genesis because they were the three people who told me to do it, how to get into the service, and like to move to Las Vegas to build it. And so if they come into a Genesis, the staff knows those three people get their shit for free because those three people are the reason that all of you are even here.
What would you say the bottom line is for you?
All things being considered, all things being said, if no matter what anyone tells you or talks to you or says to you, uh, employee, someone out there that isn't your business partner, it is your company. You are the last person to draw a line in the sand, period. So, as long as you're trying to do what is right to actually help people, then you can do whatever the fuck you want. As long as you have integrity and your desire is to help people and your desire is to solve a big problem, and the bigger problem you solve, the more money you make, hey, that's your choice. It is still your company. You are still the leader. And if they don't agree with that, then your core values or your direction you want to go in is misaligned, and kick them fucking out of your business. They don't need to be around you. They could run their own thing. If they have that strong of an opinion of how you run things, let them go. Don't fault them for it. Just say, "Hey, you just don't belong here. You belong on your own bus. Drive in your own bus if you want to, but you just don't belong on my bus with my team because we are going in this direction, rowing in this direction. I'm trying to do good and right by these people. And if you have a problem with that, there's the door." And I've told staff that as well. If you have a problem with these things, if you want to kick back, if you want to fight back, there's the door. Literally. I've had conversations like that.
Well, that kind of leads into my last question for you, which is what do you feel like is a critical piece of advice for people who are struggling to stay true to themselves in those stressful, critical, pressure given environments and situations?
There's a old Italian saying, I think it was on the Godfather. No, Scarface. He wasn't Italian. But there's a saying on there, and it's in Italian families as well, where you know Montoya is talking to Chico, and he says, "I don't break my balls for nobody." Period. And it's the same in your business. You should never compromise your integrity or your core values in your business or yourself for anybody. Period. That is the final line in the sand. Now, that doesn't mean your core values can't change, because at the beginning, we had our core values at Genesis and they evolved and changed because we got so big. We had all different types of people and we allowed them to rewrite the core values. Now that the core values are rewritten, again, as a group now, we don't break our balls for nobody. Not an employee who thinks that they know better and they don't want to live these core values. Get the fuck out. In our home, my wife and I, we have our core values. If anybody speaks against them, or we just don't fucking hang out with them. We don't we don't need you. And most people think that everybody's opinion is important, and they have this idea now that everybody is allowed to their own opinion. Yeah, they can. Not fucking around me. They can have their own opinion in their own house. They don't have us. They can't have that opinion in my house if it's incongruent with what I want. Same with the business. That is your house. I'm sure with public beauty, you can't have people going in there and being like, women should be submissive to all men and they should be doing their makeup because that's what a woman should fucking do. I mean, that's direct opposite of what your brand message is, right? You
Yeah.
can't have those types of people in your business. You wouldn't hire that type of person. Even if that person lied through the interviews, because your culture is so strong, the other people in the business who know what your culture is about would be like, get the fuck out of here. Like, this is not a place for you, period. Get out of here. And so it's good to have that culture in your business. It's good. I mean, the reason why they call it as a culture, because it has to be like a cult. You guys need to be willing to fight and die and kill for what you guys believe in your business. And those are the best types of businesses that have that cult like following and that cult like idea that, like, I want to be here. This is what I believe in. These are my core values. And it's opposite, because obviously cult gets a really bad name, but that's what you're building. You're building a cult. You're building people who want to live and breathe and be your representative and believe in what you're doing. So it's very important to have people who will not compromise on their core values, as you won't compromise on your core values. And those things are aligned with each other, period. That is literally the most important thing. And if they don't like it, again, there's the fucking door. Go somewhere else. There are 7 billion people on this planet. I think there's more now. And if you kick the one out, guess what? You got 699 billion more to choose from that can work in your company.
Yeah. And if you don't have your integrity, you don't have anything.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've seen business owners. I've only been in this for 5 years, and I've met more people from masterminds that have compromised on their integrity in the past 5 years, and they go away. It's not a long term solution to your problem to compromise your integrity for any amount of money, because in the end, you're going to lose all the money afterwards that you possibly could have made if you had integrity. You might make a lot less up front when you have integrity, but compounded over your entire lifetime, your entire career. I mean, I can go back to any person that we've taken money from, and there's only been 3 people that we've taken money from for Genesis because we did some internal, like, friends funding clinics to take a little bit of percentage. We were trying to figure out franchise model versus not franchise model, and we still didn't franchise. We just took some, investments, and we've paid back all of those friends. And so I could go ask them for more money if they wanted. In fact, I have asked one of them for more money for a different project and he was willing to give it. We didn't end up taking it, but because I have that, I don't break my balls for nobody. And if you give me something, I'm going to give it back to you. And I'm going to make sure that if you bet on me as a racehorse, even if I break my fucking legs, I am going to make sure that you get paid back what you deserve. And you have that attitude, then I can always go back to those people. I can always fund a new project. I can always ask them for more help. If you don't have integrity and you just take, you burn that bridge. Not only with them, but you burn the bridge with every other entrepreneur out there. And this world is super small as you get higher and higher up to where, I mean, I know the guy that funded Public Beauty through another guy who we're mutual friends with, and we all know of each other. We may not know each other personally, but we know of each other. So we all listen to each other's stories. And if somebody says, like, I did business with this person and they fucked me, guess what? There's going to be 25, 30 other people at our level that will never do business with that person because of that one deal that went bad.
Mhm. I've gotten calls actually after some of like the mastermind groups and conferences where they're like, "Oh, so and so that was at the event knows Dr. Alex." And I'm like, "Of course."
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course
It's
they
talking
do.
shit about me probably. Be like, fuck, that guy's horrible. You work
N
for that asshole?
No, no, it's always good. It's always good, and, I
That's
thank
good.
you for
That's good.
that because it it gives me credibility too, so it's nice, like, because I talk about you, so then if they hear all the things that I've said about you from somebody else, it's like, "All right, yeah, that's real."
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
good. No, thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Your check is in the mail.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah, like
I'll
you're
be
getting
watching for
you're
it.
getting paid for this. Like I'm getting paid for this.
No,
Shit.
I would say it even if I wasn't getting paid for it.
So, in closing, guys, you really need to focus on who is speaking to you in constructive criticism. And I posted something about this the other day where if the person who is talking to you is well beyond you and honestly where you want to be in life in the future, you should fucking shut up and listen, no matter how they present it to you. They could present it to you sweetly, hey, beautiful flower child, I think you should do this. Or they could be fucking yelling at you and say, hey, pull your head out of your fucking ass because you need to fucking do this. You just need to listen because if they're where you want to be, maybe in that situation, they're not acting how you want to act, but they're where you want to be. There's a reason they got to that point. And assholes only get so far in life, period. No matter what you think, you can't, screw your way to the fucking top because at some point, somebody's going to call you out and the rest of the people at the top are just going to kick you off the mountain, period. So, those people that are rich, wealthy, have a lot of people around them all the time, stand on stages and people listen to them, they can only step on people for so long. And the people who stay up there and have stayed up there for years, they are inherently good people. So if they're telling you stuff and they're trying to teach you stuff, shut up, listen, take their constructive criticism and apply it to what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. And everybody else out there who doesn't align with your core values, who is the come and go entrepreneur, speaking on stage and blowing it out of the water and saying stupid shit like, if my staff doesn't have 6-packs, I'm going to fire them. That's fucking horseshit. That type of thought, that type of feelings is just pure bullshit. period. You're telling me you don't have one person that doesn't have a six pack in your company? You're a fucking idiot, period. You're going to have all different types of people. And if you build a big enough company, you're going to have left wingers and right wingers and trans people and blue haired people and 98-year-old women. Maybe not 98-year-old women, but you're going to have all different types of freaking people in your company. It's going to be an awesome, beautiful freaking thing. And it doesn't matter because as long as their core values align with your core values and you're going in the same direction and everybody's rowing the boat while you're in your company, let them be who they want to be outside. I'm focused on winning here when you walk through these doors in this business, period. And the peanut gallery can be the peanut gallery outside. But don't listen to those assholes. Stay aligned with yourself and your core values and the people around you who are aligned with you.